So
yeah.
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Tuesday,
but not afternoon. Oh, wow.
It's been a fun.
It was a crazy morning already.
Yeah, I got stuck in traffic. She got stuck in traffic. So, but I think we're pretty good.
Yeah.
I actually have everything.
Ready?
Well, I don't have all the embellishments done, but most of it. So
that's good.
Everything is ready to show you guys. And honestly, it's one of my favorites just from a cuteness level. And I got to be honest, I'm not a huge Halloween person. So I wasn't expecting to
really love it.
But I absolutely love this. It is just so dang cute.
I think the sewing part
made it really, really cute.
Right. I think it makes it
the
so
pin
much more
cushions
appealable.
It's just it's just a pumpkin, but it's not just a pumpkin, and it's just they
it's a pin cushion.
It's a pin.
It's a
pumpkin
pin cushion.
Yeah, that's
a lot of peas.
Good morning. We're gonna every time we do this, I'm trying to think what it's called. Pitch Perfect, when those judges and he's like, ah.
Yeah.
I need to get all that
out
because I have a rough time some days.
You need to untie our tongues.
I need to untie the tongue because things just don't always work the way I want them to. Yeah. I lose the signal from here to here, and it's like, that's not what I meant to say.
This morning when I was leaving the house, I had my keys in my hand and I didn't realize how wet the grass was. So I said to Dave, I'm like, oh man, I have wet keys instead of wet feet. He's like, did you say you have a wet kitten?
Wet kitten.
I'm like, no, I said keys, but I meant feet.
And you heard something completely different.
And I'm like, how did you
not really
that?
Sure what just happened here, but
I was like, okay, this conversation is going weird. I'm like, what were you thinking?
What just happened here?
Oh, yep. So I had brain to mouth disconnect, and Dave had mouth to ear disconnect. And I was like, oh, it's not Monday, but it feels like it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it's your Monday, so that counts.
Yeah, it's totally my Monday.
It's totally your Monday. Yeah. So we have a very packed in short week this week. We're going to see you guys. Well, I guess you're going to see us a lot this week. We won't see you, other than maybe your name popping up.
Absolutely.
So, good morning, Marilyn.
Yeah.
And we've got lots of fun little things to share. There's going back to what we were originally. It's super cute, but it wasn't super complicated. There's no really crazy blocks like, okay, this one's going to be, pay really attention hard. Because it's super. There aren't really any of those. So I think maybe that's going to be fun for all of you, because I certainly have heard, man, that block it took 2.5 hours, and that's
not the case.
The case with these. Yeah. Everything really was pretty smooth. So there's no fringe blocks.
So let's give a little synopsis of what we're going to do here. So this isn't a traditional stitch along, because we have done many different Kimberbell stitch alongs, and there are 100 YouTube videos out there doing the same thing. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to sort of condense the first section down to the things that we think you might want to pay attention to. Any tips or tricks or different types of techniques that we can offer you to make the process a little bit easier, things that we may have messed up on while we were doing it.
Or even not necessarily a mess up, but like, I hated the thread here, so I went back and redid it. Make a note, don't do that, or something to that effect. Make sure you change your bobbin here, little things that didn't show up well, or just trying to save you the heartache. Let me have my heartache, and so you don't.
That's right.
Kind of things. So if you've been listening to different things, you probably have heard, I am going to make it bigger so I can actually cuddle underneath of it, because I want to be able to use it. It's just so dang cute. I want to, so I'm going to be adding to it. So I'm going to do each of the sections, which are actually all done and put together, and then I'm going to add stuff in between those. but we'll have all of the sections pieced together here at the store. So that they will certainly be here. But I have talked with a lot of you and you're like, yeah, that's really cool. I want to do that too. So I'm certainly happy to discuss those ideas or whatnot with you guys too. So
yeah, when you figure out
what I'm doing,
like the last little bit of it, maybe we can have like a little special session on maybe here's what we did to make it bigger. So if you want to add these things, because you're going to pull some stuff from the Twilight Boulevard,
I pulled,
which is the bench pillow.
And then I created some things myself. I'm planning to do some piecing. Sarah had a great idea of maybe finding like a small paper pieced sewing themed pieces, little blocks that I could throw in there. I love that idea. So all I have to do is find that. So I'm
full
sure
of great ideas. Sometimes they come out right.
Sometimes I can understand them too. So there's going to be other stuff too. So there wasn't anything that I was like, yeah, I don't even want to stitch that block. There wasn't any of those. Not that there usually is, but seems like there's been a block where I'm just like,
or I don't is this going to get done?
Am I ever going to finish?
Do how many of
these here in this pillow, each of those blocks took like 2 hours to stitch. And by the time you got done with it, you were just like, oh my God, they look beautiful, but they were a chore to do. So much trimming, the little leather pieces and the windows and they were so tiny little trimming things. And so it was not hard, but they were very tedious and took a lot of time and patience to do. Nothing like that in here.
Awesome.
These were all a lot of fun. And they just came
done in a reasonable amount of time.
I had almost everything done. The only things that I waited on
in one day.
Granted, it was a marathon day, but you could stitch this in a weekend very easily because.
And you had no power, so you weren't distracted.
True. I was not distracted. There was nothing else to do. So made sure the generator, I'm like, I don't care about anything else. It just has to hook it up to my sewing room and I'm good. Just leave me alone and I'm good. But so everything was fun. It was just like, I can't wait to get to the next block because there wasn't that stress of, oh my God.
This is so hard. I gotta be so perfect.
Not even a little bit. So
well, let's get right into it.
Let's get into it.
All right. So let's switch the camera over here. If I can figure out which mouse to use. There we go.
There we go. So up here we've got section 1, and then this is section 2 underneath, which they will be sewn together. I've got them still apart, but that is the gig. So everybody that's looked at this kind of goes, what's the deal? Why don't your witches have a face? And they are going to be holding quilts. And then there's cute little buttons that are green hands. So basically you just see little fingers that are going to be stitched on the sides of those quilts to hold those in place. So very, very cute. Sarah has some, like we talked about, really cute embroidery quilting. This is one of those pieces. So if you want to use the dress form piece that she created, this is the place to put it. There really isn't another place to put it throughout the entire quilt. So don't miss your chance. This is the one.
But it's really busy fabric. So,
it is. I have actually, I'm going to hold this up a little bit closer so you guys can see it. I've actually stitched that 3 times. The first time I did it in dark gray, couldn't see it at all. So then I did it in white. You could see it a little bit. And then I went over it again in purple. So it's actually been stitched three times. So that you could see it, and you can see it better in purple. I think even in orange would have probably been better, but I wanted it in purple, so I did it in purple.
They might be able to see on the back. Flip it over a little bit. Yeah, you can kind of see the outline of it. So that's the dress form.
So choose a color that will show if you want it to show, because
or swap out the fabric for something.
Or swap for something else. You will definitely have some scraps left over. So if you want that to be something else, that would be definitely make sure you choose the right thread in that position. This little guy right here is a star that she created as well. You do have some choices of quilting options, which honestly, that's probably what took me the most time, was what do I want to put where? Because, everything else Kimberbell tells you what to do. So you don't have to figure out, which fabric to put where. They tell you. But these are some other quilting pieces that she has in there for you if you have those quilting patterns. So a sewing machine and a spool of thread. And again, you can choose whether you want those to pop or blend in based on your color choices. I did, because I had the Twilight Boulevard, I purchased Kimberbell's quilting patterns as well. So I do have a mix of Sarah Quilting and Kimberbell Quilting in here. So if you're looking and wondering, oh, what's that one? Doesn't necessarily mean it's a Sarah background quilting piece. This one was a lot of fun, and I did not come up with this. If you haven't cracked open your information yet, this is super cute, and they did this for each different brand of sewing machine. You just need to pick the file for yours, or you don't have to stitch that if you want to leave it empty. What I debated was, do I want to do that, or do I want to do my initial, or do I want to leave it blank? Mm-hmm. So I went ahead and did the brother, which is Bruther, but you could very easily add in a script letter or something from your machine's fonts. If you wanted to kind of monogram your machine or something like that, it would be a really cute way. And I debated a lot, and I'm still not sure I chose the right way, but it's done. So I chose the right way because that's what I chose.
Done is better.
Done is always good, right?
Yeah.
So just some other options that you could do there. I really waffled back and forth. I couldn't decide. I left that one for a little while because I was like, I don't know what I want to do. So there are many options, and if you have more than one machine, you of course could choose from multiple machine brands, just because you don't even have to own it if you just like the word. So like Baby Lock is Baddie Lock, which I thought was really funny. But I do sew on a brother, so I went ahead and did that. And of course, you could change out the thread colors. I'm trying to think if I swapped out, and I don't know that I did. I don't know that I used things that weren't in the thread kit. I tried really careful to not do that so that everything would look.
Yeah, we had a pretty good selection of threads in there.
We really did. So everything that you see here is available in the thread kit if you got the thread kit.
11 spools, right?
It was 11 spools. It did not include, did it? No, it did include black and white.
So you used a lot of black and white.
Because there was a lot in there. So there's a couple different colors of gray. There was
and that one background quilting color that we picked.
Yep. And that was actually, I used that more than I originally thought I was going to, because I also ended up using that as the pins here. So there's 3 of these little guys, and this has some foam underneath.
I don't know who that is. Oh.
Like, hi, yeah, okay. Weird.
We have random people coming.
Random people just talking to us. Okay, so there are 3 of these blocks. They pretty much all look exactly the same. You could certainly change the pin head colors or whatnot if you wanted to, but it's just repeating. So you're going to load it once and stitch it 3 times. And there is foam in there. So they're pin cushions, and they are puffy, so which is super cool. My first one I stitched, I grabbed a gray because my brain said gray, silver for needles and pins, because that was what made sense. It didn't show up on that background at all. So, and I didn't decide that until I had already removed it out of the hoop. So I did put it back in, and I stitched back over top of it. But this is that quilting color, which is actually this here, which I don't think it looks like that at all up here. But here, I'm going to get you the thread color. Let me dig in my little box.
You want me to dig in your box?
Goodies over here. Sure. Would you like to do that? Here we go. All right. So this is using for the pins and the needle. This is the thread color that I ended up using, and I highly recommend If you
so
are,
that's ES5829. Is
that is correct.
All right.
And that is the reason we put it in there, was so that you had something to quilt this linen, so that making sure that you had something in there. And I ended up using it
a lot
in other random places as well, because it just worked really, really nicely.
Yeah.
And that was one of those places. So the foam likes to shift under the stitches. So
Sure.
be really careful when you're stitching. It's of course going to do the placement line and then the tack down line, but it kind of draws in when you snip it. So don't snip super tight to that tack down stitch when you do that foam, because it will pull a little bit after you've snipped it. It kind of, it's like those shrinking,
like the shrinky dinks?
The shrinky dinks just a little bit. I mean, not drastically, but it does shift a little bit. So just be aware when you go to trim off that foam. This is a lot of heavy stitching because there's so much on there, and it was a little awkward. I would say, honestly, this was probably one of the harder blocks because you're trimming fabric on top of foam. So trying to keep from snipping the foam while you're snipping the fabric. Yeah. So there's 2 colors on each, and I don't have another pumpkin in this section, but they're not all the same color. So you'll want to make sure you're matching up the right fabrics for right pumpkins. But you lay 2 different pieces, and then it does the different crescents all at the same time for those colors. And so you're digging in between. So it's a little awkward when you're trimming. Make sure you have some small scissors because you're getting into some small spaces, like getting into these tiny little spots up top. And again, you have to trim around the foam. So just be real careful as you are getting into those tiny little positions up there. That's pretty easy if that's the hardest one.
So Holly said, what about a metallic gray? I think I agree with Lisa. No gray, because it's just not going to show up on that background. Even if it's shiny, it's still not going to show up a lot. You're going to want something that's a little bit more, I guess, kind of like pearlescent.
This doesn't, to me, that doesn't look, it looks like silver.
Right.
So it stitched out really, really well. And I was prepared to rip it out when I tried it, because I was like, I don't know.
Right.
I thought it was going to look more white when it actually stitched, and it didn't. It really does. And I don't know if that helps, but they really do look like pins and a needle. It gave it a metallic look, actually. Against that dark gray background. It really worked very, very well. So I highly recommend that if you got the thread kit. If you didn't, of course, audition some different colors out of your own thread by opening and, put it across, or maybe not single, because that's not going to be heavy enough, because it does a quite heavy stitch, but, get a chunk and put it down so that you can see what it's actually going to look like. A lot of metallic threads are very thin, and you want a bold look on those. It stitches pretty heavily. It does a triple stitch on the pin portion. I don't think that a metallic thread, honestly, Holly, would be bold enough. I think you would end up with it looking very thin and be frustrated. Absolutely. You'd end up stitching over top of it multiple times to get the look that you want. And with metallic thread,
it can just break.
It would end up causing more issues than, and you could choose a super, super light gray so that it's
something that's more silver, which really one is more silver.
So yeah, if you didn't purchase the kit, of course you have your own stash to dig through. You can have some more flexibility. I was attempting to only choose from the kit so that it wasn't, which color did you,
right.
So that I confined myself, which was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But that was my challenge, was I was trying to make sure that
all right,
was in there. So
and I think Mary, she's just about to get to the pinwheels. So she had a question about the pinwheels.
What was the question?
Did you quilt them?
I did quilt them. So here is my fun with the pinwheel. So This is Sarah's quilting pattern, and I think it's absolutely adorable. There is a second set of pinwheels that are smaller, which I also quilted, which Sarah also provided a very nice quilting pattern for. And it didn't put quilting right in the center where all of that fabric meets, which is really hard on the needle. Sometimes it will push. Did you plan it that way because of that, I assume?
Yes.
So, when you're doing a pinwheel, and there's really not, but that's where the bulk of, you've got all of those right there. And so when you're quilting, sometimes when your needle hits, it will deflect one way or the other if you didn't press all of your seams the opposite directions, or sometimes it just happens even if you did.
Yeah,
because you have so much fabric right there. So yes, there is a quilting design, and it says in the title of it, it does say pinwheel in the title of the design, but it has a little star in the center for the larger piece and circles. Hang on, I have it right here, just so that I'm no peeking. I'm just going to show you this one little spot. This is the circles are what you're looking for the smaller ones. All right. Only Mary saw that, right?
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
just kidding. All right. So for the pinwheels, I quilted all of these, as you can see from the back. They all have batting behind them. So depending on how you are doing it, if they're a square in the hoop, then I am following, you have two folders with a squaring stitch and without, right?
Yep.
So I followed the squaring stitch, placed the batting, trimmed the batting, and then placed the background fabric. And then I added the embroidery portion right on top of it, which centers it in the square. Boom.
Yeah.
So everything happened all at once in my hoop. So that's how I did anything that's an embroidered square. All of the excess quilting pieces, you can do it the exact same way. So you can trim, place your batting, trim it, so on and so forth. Or you could pre-cut your batting so if this was 2x6 finished, you could pre-cut your batting to be 2x6. Your fabric would be 2.5 by 6.5. And you can use a spray based and put that either on the stabilizer or on the back of the fabric, whichever you would prefer. I did a little bit of both. Good morning.
Good morning.
The machine wants to say hello.
Mm-hmm. It's going to move.
So you can do either. The pinwheels, of course, you're not going to be trimming any of those pre-cut pieces. So you're just going to be lining them up with the placement line on your stabilizer. So the tack down aspect, probably a better... Turn that off. The girl's saying hello to the machine.
My watch, apparently.
The watch.
I rubbed right up across it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you have a couple different choices when you go to quilt those pieces that are pre-cut. Unfortunately, I do recommend cutting them with the directions in your front of your book. Don't not cut them, because you're going to need some for applique. You don't know really while you're cutting which pieces are for piecing later on and which pieces are for applique. You don't know that until you get to the next step. So you're still going to need to cut all of these squares. So I've got this piece here. I don't know if that's in somewhere else, but for instance, this was a quilted piece and this was a background piece. But of course, it's all out of the same piece of fabric. So when you go in your trimming, it tells you, cut one 4.5 by 6.5, cut one 2.5 by 6.5. I don't know where they're going to go as I'm cutting, but to get them all the correct cuts out of that one piece of fabric, you kind of have to cut them all.
Yeah.
So I don't recommend only cutting the backgrounds, because you're going to end up not getting everything that you need later on.
Right.
So, you're going to have to just place that piece either in the placement stitch as it goes, or that's really what I did. I just hit the placement, spray basted into the placement line, and then I quilted on top of it. That's how I did all of those. And then I trimmed the stabilizer and then sewed them all together.
But it is the designs, if you got the designs from me, or I think if you buy the designs from Kimberbell, they'll all have
the lines.
The lines. So
Yep.
they'll have a placement line for your batting, a tack down for your batting, and then a placement line for your fabric, and then a tack down.
Yep. So you have basically
fabric.
4 squaring stitches.
Right.
2 for the batting, placement, tack down, and 2 for the actual fabric placement and tack down.
Mm-hmm. The difference is that there's really no trim down after these, because they should be the final size.
Correct.
So the difference between my quilting designs from this time versus last time, on those blank ones, I pulled the seam allowance in, I pulled the basting line in to the actual seam allowance.
Was that just on the borders, or was that all of them?
It was just on all of the ones that I knew were going to be like not a background. Okay. So, and I made the stitch a lot longer, so it would be easier to pop out. But I did like 1/8 of an inch in last time, and it doesn't always.
It didn't always catch.
It didn't always catch. So this time I did it at basically your sewing line, but I did a bigger basting stitch so that they would pop out later on, but it would hold your fabric in and help prevent any type of shifting that comes in. So
because of course you guys all know, when you start quilting, you get some draw in on that fabric sometimes, and then when you go to sew it in, if you pre-cut it to 2.5 by 6.5, it might not quite be 2.5 by 6.5.
Right.
So one advantage that you would have by having stabilizer in the back, you could actually cut it when you trim off the stabilizer, cut it to 2.5 by 6.5 and use the stabilizer as your edge.
Right. Because you'll have at least 1/8 of an inch in there. So you just need to have some in there, and it'll stabilize your seam. But essentially that's what we did. And then Holly asked, did you guys create a thread pack? We did.
We did, and we have them available.
It is available on the website for sale. So, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So when you're looking for those quilting pieces, if she planned them for a specific spot, it is in the title. So this one, it says blank. I forget what it said, but
probably maybe just blank size or something.
It said blank something or other, and it was obvious based on the size of the square here that's where that one goes. And so it's got a spool of thread in there, a bobbin, some scissors, a needle, and a pin cushion, all to fill that piece in. So otherwise, you can literally choose from a couple different things.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I do also personally own some of the Halloween pieces from Kimberbell. So I have different things possibly than what you would have.
So is that it for section 1?
I think so. I do realize these look a little bit odd.
Because we don't have
quilts. They don't have quilts covering up their lack of heads. So they look like they are very good at witchcraft, and they've disappeared half their body.
It's like the headless horsemen and the headless witches.
Something to that effect. They do tell you when they recommend changing out a bobbin. I didn't need to do that on any of this, and you can see that very clearly. I've got a standard bobbin everywhere in here. There's white coming through, so nothing in here needed that. You can certainly jump ahead on some of these, and there's black here and there's black here. You can jump if you prefer to try to save on changing thread colors. Certainly do that. Excuse me. As far as these go, pretty straightforward. The flying geese, because you're building this in the hoop, it's a little bit awkward. You're going to want to add your quilting piece first, add the batting, then go stitch the flying geese, and then go back and do the quilting afterwards. So otherwise you're just float batting in after the fact. But if you want to have it all quilted in the hoop, you're going to want to add in the quilting pattern, put the batting in, trim the excess batting away, build the block, and then go back and stitch the quilting pattern on top, whatever it might be. So that one is probably the most confusing after all the embroidery portions really are done. So that is done in the hoop. So basically, you're just doing a paper piecing. So you put one piece down and then right side flip, you know, whatnot there. So you can see the front here. I do have the other one right there. So you can see the back to get that batting in there and have it all stitched. You need to put the batting in before you build the block. But you can't do the quilting before you build the block.
Right.
So that's the only one that does that. There's no other squares that are built in the hoop like that you need to do it that way. So that one, I hope that, does that make sense?
Yeah.
The way I described
if you
that?
think about it like you were creating your flying geese not in the hoop. You would have to create the flying geese first, and then you would have to do the quilting. The difference is that you want to make sure that you have batting underneath this. So, and you
outside
want your
of taping batting to the bottom of the hoop, which I don't recommend.
Right.
So, I want my batting on the top of my stabilizer, not underneath my stabilizer.
Yes.
You need to get that batting placed first.
Right.
So, build the design, get the batting in place, and then jump, stitch the flying geese, and then jump and stitch the quilting.
Yes. The only other way that you could do that would be like maybe you could build your flying geese on like some tearaway, and then you could take the tearaway out and then hoop and then you could do it a second time if you wanted to.
You could float it like one of these.
That's right. So if you forget that,
that would be an option.
Yeah, you could just build the flying geese and then treat that block as a
just a cut piece.
As just a cut piece. Yeah. Yep. Holly wants to know where does she get the quilting designs? They're in your bag. You pre-ordered your kit, so your quilting designs are on the USB stick. They're in your kit. Anybody who purchased,
if you pre-ordered, you received all of the ones that Sarah did as a bonus from us. So you already have all of the sewing machine and the dress form, all of those background quilting ones. If you wanted the Kimberbell ones, you can follow the link through our site and purchase them. And then we get a little kickback, which we would greatly appreciate if that's what you would like to do, that you go that route.
Yep.
So, but yeah, those bonus designs came when you pre-ordered.
I think that's all of the questions so far. Anything else special?
Nope. The leather is, I always get asked, is it, how am I supposed to take care of it and whatnot? So it says on there that, all of her glitters and all of those different pieces are machine washable. You don't want to hit the glitter, the leather, the vinyl, any of those things with your iron. So when you're pressing all of your pieces, you want to make sure that you have a pressing cloth somewhere nearby. That can be lots of different things. The very minimum, have it be a scrap piece of fabric.
Right.
But you need something in between your embellishment, for lack of a better word, and your iron. You don't want your iron to directly hit either leather, glitter, or vinyl. Is there anything I'm missing in that grouping? Mylar,
yeah. Anything that
any of those embellishment pieces, you don't want that to directly hit. So, good morning, Dad.
So let's go back to the beginning here, and let's talk about. So I remember getting a few phone calls about Red, White, and Bloom after we kind of did this, with people talking about the particulars with the stuff that they were using, particularly their no-show mesh and their stabilizer.
Yeah.
So let's talk about brands. So Lisa and I are not huge proponents of saying that you have to buy a particular brand of something, but and I respectfully love OESD when I say this. Don't use their no-show mesh, their poly mesh, without pre-shrinking it, because that is the number one complaint with that particular one. You've done your block and now you kind of hit it with your steam iron, or you've starched it or something. That one really wants to draw in. So it's important to pay attention to the materials that you're using. If you are unsure if your particular mesh is going to draw in, just cut yourself a little chunk of it and spritz it with some water.
And you can literally see it move.
That's right.
If it's going to do it, you'll see it do it.
So
what were we doing the other day? And Carolyn and I were just like, holy crap. It was just like, and do you ever go to a restaurant and they give you a straw wrapped with paper and you know, you squish it and then you put a little bit of water on it and it makes the worm grow, right?
Right.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
And we were just like,
wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that dramatic of a holy crap, this move. And she was like, no, never did that. I'm like, how could you never have done that? You didn't teach your kids that? Shame on you, Carolyn. I was like, how did you not teach your kids how to make worms out of straws and water?
Oh, yeah. So,
but yeah, so that adding water to those things is the easiest way to find that out. So
that's right.
Just be careful because you don't want to put all this work in and then have it contract later on and ruin everything.
That's right.
That's bad. That's
it
bad.
Totally
that's really,
is.
really bad.
And the same thing about, besides just your poly mesh, think about your batting,
your fabric,
and your fabric.
All of those things can have that happen.
That's right. So we're big proponents on like pre-starching and pressing.
Press everything before you go to cut so that it doesn't, you don't have that 2.5 by 6.5 and then you go press it and then it's 2 by 6 so that when you go to sew it together, it's not going to work no matter what.
And let's be clear, just putting a dry iron on a piece of fabric isn't going to pre-shrink it.
No.
So you have to get it wet. I definitely recommend using Best Press or some sort of a starch because if you're going to get it wet, you might as well get it stiff.
Yep.
Because otherwise,
totally see Hayden's face.
It's just a total waste, right?
Absolutely.
Don't just use water. You'll regret that later.
Yeah, totally.
So use your starch on your fabric.
Starch on fabric. Absolutely. That's just the way to go.
Yes. And double check your batting if you're using a cotton batting. Cotton battings can, again, shrink in. And if you don't want that look afterwards, then you're going to want to, again, make sure that you pre-shrink that little piece too. So make sure that you're when you're paying
purchasing, attention. Some things will say right on them, pre-shrunk and so on and so forth. So you can always know that but ahead of time. If it doesn't say, you should check.
Well, and even if it does say pre-shrunk, what?
It never hurts to look.
No.
Because, good help is hard to find.
It is, right?
We'll just leave it at that. So it's always best just to know exactly what you're working with and what you're putting in the project. Right. So everybody wants their corners and whatnot to line up. And if you don't do those things, once you go to try to get those corners to line up and your seam lines to line up with, I want this one to match this one and this one to match. If they start shrinking, you're going to be stretching and pulling and you're going to be frustrated. And of course, nobody wants to, so if you plan ahead, then everybody will be much happier and those things are much less likely to become an issue. Yeah. So
pay attention to those materials.
Materials, give them a little bit of love and they will love you back.
Yes.
But yeah, so take care of that pressing and all of those things. As far as backings go, so Kimberbell right in there tells you, put a backing on all of the background fabrics. I did not need to do anything on I don't know if you guys can see the orange dots and these, you don't need to do that. There wasn't anywhere that I needed a color block or anything like that. So from all of those perspectives, everything was easy. We didn't get to anywhere that I needed to, like I said, change my bobbin, excuse me. So far. It's early.
It is early.
It'll work better later on. Sorry. Maybe.
You just never know.
You just never know. Sometimes it happens all day long. Maybe it'll happen later this afternoon still too. You just never know. You have to tune in and you'll see. We'll let you know later. But the backing, you will definitely want to have something on there. The beautiful satin stitches are beautiful, but they definitely need the support. So make sure that you follow. That is not a direction to ignore.
No.
You want to make sure that you are doing that.
And that's definitely another thing to make sure that you're making sure that it's pre-shrunk.
Yes.
My favorite, again, I don't like to be brand specific, but I really like the Heat and Bond Easy Tee.
The Easy Tee is definitely my favorite.
It is.
And that one does say pre-shrunk on the packaging.
It does.
And it usually is.
It usually is.
Yes.
Yeah. It does not shrink in. But a lot of them say that they are pre-shrunken. They still do
A little bit.
pull in a little bit. And I love Kimberbell stuff, but I really do prefer the Easy Tees.
Yeah.
It just has a really nice, the most important thing about this is the shrinkage and how it adheres. Yeah. And that one it really does adhere. It's got just a nice fusible on it. So
yeah, you don't,
and it doesn't get like wrinkly later.
Yeah, you don't want the little bubbles and whatnot. So you can actually see those little bubbles. You don't want that.
No.
So that's the bond that we're talking about, is not having those little icky spots that tend to pop up. So make sure that all of those backgrounds are there. Now, also in the front of the book, she recommends, and I think it's a great practice, especially for those of you who don't marathon sew and get it all done in a weekend or a day or two, to take each project, so each block piece, and put a bag or whatever works for you, but find a way to make it, okay, this is my background. I've got my fusible on the background. What applique pieces do I need? What embellishment pieces do I need? And put it all together. And then go to the next section. Okay, what do I need for this block? I need 3 of these. Okay, so what are all of those pieces? And get them put together. I don't generally take that step because I generally don't lose pieces in 2 days. But if you're going to take a month to get all of this done, it's super easy to lose a piece. If you guys have been in here, you know that I forgot my vinyl it fell on the floor. And last week I was cleaning up my sewing room and I'm like, why do I have this piece of vinyl? And I'm like, it was shiny. And I looked down, I'm like, what's that? I pick it up and I'm like, why do I have so I put it in after I lined it back up and I added it back in. But if it had been in the bag, I probably wouldn't have done that. It fell on the floor. So, I mean, it could have happened
anytime.
I had it in there anyway, so it probably just fell on the floor while I was working, but less likely to happen if it's all together. So,
well, and if that's the only thing that you have, like one block,
right? If I only have one instead of a box full of, which is what
pieces you're looking for.
This is my working box. So everything, my threads, all of my embellishments, everything is been in here, and this is what I've been lugging either here or home or to the sewing machine or wherever around my craft room. That's what I've been dragging with me. Okay, where's this piece? It's all been in there. So take those steps to organize yourself before you get started, especially if I'm not going to get it all done this weekend. Planning that out so that everything is organized and put together. And then I'm missing something. Right. I need to go find it or whatever. It's much less stressful than when you sit down to do it a month from now and you go, well, where's the...
Yeah, because you won't even remember.
You won't even know. So
heck, I won't remember what I cut 3 days later. I'll have cut something else in between and had 12 conversations.
Absolutely. And, so please take those times. She's got some great tips. I absolutely love the front of her prep. It shows you exactly what, if it's a directional fabric, it shows you which direction to put it before you cut. And, and then the next page tells you which,
right.
Yeah. I mean, where they go and which piece goes with what project. And
I like to be told where to go.
I like to tell people where to go too. So I totally get that. But, it's got an embellishment breakdown. Everything is there that you need. So take advantage of that and put it to good use and get yourself organized before you start the project. I pretty much started at the beginning of the book and just whatever page I was on, that's what I did. There was only 2 projects that I skipped because we were waiting on that adorable purple polka dot and I wanted the purple polka dot and I didn't have it because we didn't have it. So we were waiting on that and I started beforehand. So those were the 2 blocks or whatever it was that I hadn't stitched. Maybe it was 3, doesn't matter. But there was a couple of blocks that had that. Everything else I got done that first day.
Should we talk about the purple polka dot?
Let's talk about the purple polka dot. So
if you purchased a kit from us, there you go. When we were purchasing fabrics for this particular project, we were looking at the cover of the book, and it definitely looked like there was going to be a purple polka dot in there.
It didn't look orange.
It did not.
It really did not look orange.
I'm gonna flip the camera here. make that a little bit bigger. So the one on the right, so the orange polka dot, that is the Kimberbell version. And then the purple polka dot is our version. So if you did get a kit from us, orange polka dot was back ordered for a very, very long time. And purple polka dot is in our kit. There's a little sticker on your purple polka dot that tells you,
please use this here.
Yes, instead of. So if you are wondering why you have that and you haven't gotten through your kit yet,
I actually like it better.
That is why. The purple polka dot is super cute in there.
I love it.
And I'm telling you, if you look at the beginning, at the front page,
if you look at that, you will think it's purple as well.
You would agree.
So when we were buying fabrics and making sure we had extra bolts, because you guys know we cut the kits, which is how we were able to give all of you pre-order people that fantastic price, is because we cut the kits instead of purchase them already cut. It looked purple. It really looked purple. So yeah, we didn't buy orange polka dot fabric
because we didn't know it was in there.
Because we didn't know it was in there.
Because they don't give you that information.
They don't. They only give you the, when we bought the bundle, which we bought 2 whole bundles, the basics, which is what those aren't included. It's only the specialty prints, the bats and so on and so forth. So we got it here and we went, oh crap. So we quickly ordered stuff to fix that. Unfortunately, couldn't get any orange. So purple it was. And, we like purple anyways. And I think it looks absolutely adorable. Because there's actually a lot more orange in there than there is purple. So it just adds a little bit more purple, which I think looks great.
That's right.
It looks great. Anyway, please make that swap if you're looking at it going, that looks right. Exactly, Mary. That is exactly how we felt. So if you have any questions as you are working through those, we are going to be talking again about the sections, not about page 1 through 5 or however that works. We're going to be working through the sections towards the end of the book. So if you look on pages, I can't read that because it's in the shade, 42 and 43, it breaks down the sections. So if you flip to the back of the book, sections 1 and section 2 is what we talked about today. Tomorrow morning, we will do section 3 and 4. Tomorrow afternoon, we will do sections 5 and 6. That will be all of the quilt embroidered pieces and the quilted in between pieces, all of that will cover the quilt itself. Friday morning, we are going to discuss embellishments and borders. And I know we did it last time, but we'll do it again. We'll do a faux border just to make sure anybody that's just coming on board and didn't do it with us last time knows how that works. It's not complicated, but just for safety and clarification's sake. And maybe we can even do a background quilting piece, just show a couple options on how to do that in addition to a border, just so you guys can see.
So we'll do a little bit of
quilting
on the Friday. Finish it up. So if you have,
we'll talk embellishments.
Questions.
So if you have questions on that, bring them on Friday.
That's right.
And we'll see you this afternoon about something.
Yeah,
we'll figure that out here in a hot second. You guys have a good one. We'll see you real soon.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.